Chapter 1566 Lobbyists from various regions. Zhang Yi had raided the Yuan stone veins in Ghost Valley, and this operation was enough to cause Xinjiang region to be in a resource crunch for the next nearly a year. It would be difficult to build large domes to provide heating like before, and the daily energy application would have to return to the original level. Zhang Yi was very measured in his actions, so that it would not cause Xinjiang to suffer a great deal of yuan, but it would also cause the people living in Xinjiang to feel a real sense of pain. People always need to pay for what they do. That night, Zhang Yi returned to Blizzard City. He did not return to Tianhai City, much less tell anyone in the 3 bases in Tianhai City about this matter. Without him, the threat of the Reaper of Love did not exist. And living in Blizzard City, he was undoubtedly the safest. Here, if the Reaper of Love was activated in any region of the world, he would get the news in the first time. During this period, Deng Shintong was well informed and came over to him. Zhang Yi, this matter, does it have something to do with me as well? Deng Shintong felt somewhat guilty. After all, he was the one who took the initiative to invite Zhang Yi on this neon trip. Even the turmoil that was later triggered in Star Island was also planned by him. As a result, it didn't occur to him that Qin Qigong had put all the problems on Zhang Yi's head. It's good that you know. So you'd better make a list and organize the compensation for me. Zhang Yi lazily said to Deng Shintong. However, he did not blame Deng Shintong in his heart. This day would come sooner or later. Even if it wasn't because of this matter, the way he behaved as a lone wolf would have drawn the displeasure of other region-level powers. If Xu Jing had the ability to replace Zhang Yi, he was afraid that he would be the one who wanted Zhang Yi to disappear the most. Deng Shintong rubbed his nose and said with a somewhat uncomfortable expression, however, it's not good for everyone if things continue to be stagnant like this. Zhang Yi glanced at him. Someone asked you to come over as a lobbyist? Deng Shintong smiled awkwardly. The Deng family also has connections in Xinjiang, so. You know. Zhang Yi said indifferently, I, Zhang Yi, am not an unreasonable person. However, this time, it was Xinjiang that first went after me. If I don't show it, won't others take me as a soft pinch? Deng Shintong then asked, then what kind of result do you really want to be satisfied with? Zhang Yi shook his head, I don't know. Deng Shintong was momentarily speechless. You at least have a condition so that others can talk to you. Now you're saying that you don't even know what you want. What's the point of talking then? Although I don't know what I need. But when they give conditions, I will know what I don't want. Zhang Yi raised the corner of his mouth as he lay on the sofa, leisurely enjoying Zhou Qir's service. Those things are not something I need to worry about. Next, Zhang Yi no longer made any movements. It was because his words had already had an effect. Because of this matter, the Xinjiang region had held consecutive meetings on the top side for many days to discuss this matter. A black chariot-level time and space dual attribute mutant could appear anywhere in Xinjiang City within 2 minutes. As long as Zhang Yi was willing, he could block the entry and exit of every single person in Xinjiang City. Although Zhang Yi hadn't made a move to kill a single person at the moment, it was like a sword of Damocles hanging over the heads of all Xinjiang people, making them jittery inside. In the end, Xinjiang spent a tremendous amount of effort to gather a group of the most dignified people in Huaxu Kingdom to discuss a solution to this matter with Zhang Yi in Blizzard City. Of course, Zhang Yi had no problem with a meeting in his own territory. What's more, the participants of this meeting were basically old friends. Northwest Region, Northwest King Great Emperor Gochen, Li Changgong. Northeast Region, Godlu Yadao Lord, Han Shanzhua. East Sea Region Azure Dragon, Su Xiaolong. Xinjiang Region Jin Yuanzi, Zhong Yue. The Southwest Region, on the other hand, had sent an elderly living Buddha, Wangbo Sanji, to come. There were not many participants in the meeting, but they were all the most powerful or strong and prestigious existences in Huaxu Kingdom today. It was evident how much the Xinjiang region had paid to calm Zhang Yi's anger. Just inviting them was not an easy task. The meeting unfolded in the command center of the central region of Blizzard City. Zhang Yi habitually organized his accompanying equipment and adjusted his condition to the best level. Once things changed, he could be the first to break out into the best combat power to fight. Although the possibility of fighting these people to the death was extremely low, Zhang Yi would not ignore it as long as there was a slight possibility. After finishing his preparations, he put everyone into shadow space before walking into the conference room under the guidance of Yan Yunwei. Screech! The doors of the conference room were opened, and there were familiar figures in front of his eyes. Zhang Yi smiled faintly and raised his hand to greet them. "Everyone, long time no see." Li Changong was wearing a military uniform, his hands clasping his chest as he sat straight in his chair. He looked at Zhang Yi and nodded coldly. Han Zhanzhua, on the contrary, raised his hand graciously. "Yo, little guy. Haven't seen you for a while. I heard that you haven't been doing too badly lately." "Average." Zhang Yi laughed and walked over to the huge circular table, taking a seat at his place. Zhong Yue crossed his big hands on the table and said seriously to Zhang Yi, "Chaos, this time, the representatives of our regions have come here in the hope of calming down the repercussions of this incident. You've already taken a large amount of Yuan stone veins from Xinjiang, so I hope you can stop. It's not good for Huashu Kingdom if the internal conflict continues." Zhang Yi glanced at him and asked indifferently, "I want to know who ordered He Tuo to lay hands on me. Was it Qin Qigong?" Zhong Yue frowned and hesitated for a long while before saying plausibly, "You are not entirely blameless in this matter. Whether it was the trip to the southwest region or the trip to Neon, you didn't make a report to anyone. But when you caused trouble outside, you had to let Huashu Kingdom bear the consequences for you. Chaos, even though I know you don't have bad intentions, you're too impulsive." Zhang Yi asked rhetorically, "Then that means if I make a report, I can do it?" Zhong Yue thought about it and simply could not refute it. This was because both times Zhang Yi had acted, he had prevented huge crises, and the benefits far outweighed the disadvantages for the 6 regions. Theoretically speaking. Zhang Yi sneered. That means that I didn't do anything wrong at all in the matter. You guys are saying that I'm wrong just because I didn't greet you guys." He spread both his hands, "But is this the reason why Qin Qigong asked He Tuo to take action against me? Hell's guillotine can kill people from 1,000 miles away. I've always heard a lot about it, but I never thought that one day it would land on my head." Chapter 1567 Battle of Tongues. Zhong Yue hurriedly explained, "I know you don't have bad intentions. But you are the Epsilon of Huashu Kingdom, your every move represents Huashu Kingdom. But on the contrary, you are a lone wolf, and no one can restrain you. This is an extremely dangerous thing." Zhang Yi's eyes turned cold. He leaned forward and crossed his arms on the table, staring into Zhong Yue's eyes as he slowly said, "Oh? Unrestrained power can become dangerous, right?" Zhong Yue nodded his head in a hurry. "That's right, that's what I mean." Zhang Yi laughed. "Then, what is He Tuo's power? Do any of you have any constraints on her? To me, isn't her power used very freely? Has there been any consideration of using a gentler means to persuade me rather than this brutal one?" Zhong Yue was unable to refute this question for a time. It was because He Tuo was the guardian deity of the Xinjiang region, the ultimate weapon. Who could restrain her? Even Qin Qigong had to plead with her to come to her aid without having the power to order it. Thinking like this, Zhong Yue felt that what he said didn't make sense. Setting the standard so high for others, it turned out that he himself couldn't do it instead. Zhang Yi spread his hands, "So you see. Things are simple now. Whoever has the strength can play. The one with the biggest fist speaks the truth." Li Changdong saw that Zhong Yue was speechless with dislike, so he spoke up as well. "All right, Chaos. It's true that they went too far this time. But you've also made the Xinjiang region pay the price it deserves. I see no need to keep dwelling on this matter. It's important to focus on the bigger picture." Zhang Yi's face revealed a sneer. Li Changdong came from the Xingjing circle, so of course he spoke towards them. The big picture is important. Isn't this the time when you relied on your strength and forced the old commander of the Northwest region to abdicate? Vested interests, what qualifications do you have to run over and teach me what the big picture means? Li Changdong's expression suddenly became unnatural as he was exposed. What exactly do you want? There's no benefit for any of us if things get out of hand. Zhang Yi smiled coldly. He leaned back on the sofa seat and said lazily, I just want justice for myself. Whoever did this to me, that person must be duly punished. Otherwise, how can I feel comfortable cooperating with the Xingjing region in the future? Han Shan's eyes widened. Crap, bull crap. Dude, you're going after Ho To here? This guy is a bit difficult. Zhong Yue shook his head. Chaos, that's impossible. Ho To is the most important underpinning of the Xingjing region. No matter what, she can't be touched. Zhang Yi asked rhetorically, then the question arises, I have no grudges against her, so why did she attack me? Azure Dragon came to a realization, what you are looking for is the one who invited her to strike. Who that person was self-evident at this point. Zhong Yue shook his head once again, Zhang Yi, this is a bit too much. You should understand that this request is also simply impossible to fulfill. Zhang Yi spread out both hands, that is something you guys need to consider. It was you guys who first overturned the table and put the Hell's Guillotine's gate sword on my neck. So now, this sword of Damocles of mine will also hang on the neck of everyone in Xingjing. When you guys ask me to be generous, please consider first if this matter happens to you guys. Would you all be able to be as calm as I am? As a matter of fact, I have already exercised great restraint. Xingjing needs to be thankful that this person is me, Zhang Yi. As soon as these words came out, Li Changdong and the few others subconsciously began to ponder if they were the ones who were suddenly attacked remotely by Ho To with their abilities. Thinking so, cold sweat broke out straight from their backs. There were not many people who had seen Ho To's ability. But they all knew how terrifying battles the Ho To had had. She hadn't struck out many times, and the most famous one was when she had killed a mutant who had stepped into the Epsilon level 2 years ago. Thousands of miles apart, across mountains and oceans, killed in a single move. If this ability was locked onto them, even if they didn't die, they were afraid that they would have to be injured. If at such a time, it so happened that the region suffered a major incident, it might be fatal to them. Zhang Yi took in everyone's expressions as he laughed contemptuously. If the sword doesn't fall on your own body, of course you can't feel the pain. But today, my words are placed here, don't give me any lectures on righteousness and talk about putting the greater good first. I, Zhang Yi, have come this far, relying on myself to fight for it step by step in a cautious manner. When I was in Tianhai City, killing my way out of 20 million dead people, where was the big picture you all talk about? When I was starving and freezing, enduring the crisis of death every day, where was that big picture? Zhang Yi bang. Slapping the table, his words were incomparably sharp. I, Zhang Yi, am just a small person and don't have that big of an eye. I only know that whoever doesn't want me to have a good time, I won't let him have a good time either. Zhang Yi stood up after saying these words. All right, I've finished saying what I need to say. I'll wait for you guys to give me a reply. Zhang Yi kicked away his chair, intending to leave. There was no need to bullshit with them here, and they only knew how to talk great way, which was purely a waste of time. Chaos. Li Changdong slammed the table and scolded sternly. I know you've gotten a little stronger now, but you shouldn't be too arrogant. If so many of us swarmed up, you might not be able to kill us all. When Zhang Yi heard this, his footsteps paused slightly and he looked back at the crowd present with a playful expression. Living Buddha Wang Bo raised his palms. Amitabha, poor monks never like to fight and kill. Scholar, calm down. Han Shanzhua also hurriedly shook his head. No buddy, we never fight in vain. It's just that there's really no need for this. Zhang Yi said, no need to bluff here. The person who really has the idea isn't here either. After saying that, Zhang Yi walked out of the conference room. When Zhang Yi left, Li Changgong snorted coldly and sat back in his chair. He had just glanced at Zhang Yi and only felt a chill at his back, a feeling of being stared at by a fierce tiger. I didn't expect that after not seeing him for half a year, his strength has risen so much. Even Zongyue was given a second by him in a single move. My combat power is only 18,000, while he's at least 20,000. This money given by Xinjiang region, it's not good to take it. But I've finished what I have to say, so they can't say anything about me when I turn around. Of all the people present, only Zongyue had a worried frown on his face. Zhang Yi's attitude was firm. He must make Qin Qigong or Ho to suffer the consequences for this matter. This would create a not-so-small earthquake for the entire Xinjiang region. Chapter 1568 Out of Office. Zongyue had come this time, and after all, he had not accomplished the task Qin Qigong had given him. Zhang Yi had bitten the bullet and refused to let Xinjiang account for this matter, refusing to let go of the person behind the scenes. And now, Zongyue was also very clear that Zhang Yi had such qualifications to say such words. With a helpless sigh in his heart, he gave up his intention to persuade Zhang Yi one last time, and instead truthfully reported this news to Xinjiang. As for Li Changgong and the others, although they all spoke out as well, no one was willing to make an enemy of Zhang Yi. After the surface work was done, they went back to their respective homes. Xinjiang sighed. The top management held another meeting in response to this matter. After several days of consultation, it ended with Qin Qigong taking the initiative to apply to step down from his job. This matter was a mistake in my work. I can hardly absolve myself of the blame. If chaos must have someone to give an explanation, then let me do it. Qin Qigong said helplessly at the top of the high-level meeting. In response, the various executives seated below, Xinjiang's true group of decision-makers looked at each other, then nodded silently. If Qin Qigong was willing to step down, then that was the result that everyone was willing to see. At this time, Zhang Yi, what he needed was an attitude from Xinjiang region, which was also a step for him. It could be seen from the way Zhang Yi acted that he wasn't frantically attacking Xinjiang region. Including the time when Ghost Valley and Snow Dragon City were ahead of them, he hadn't even made a move to kill a single person from Xinjiang. If you can think like that, then of course it's the best. A white-haired old man said, one of the real power figures in Xinjiang. In terms of seniority, he was one generation above Qin Qigong. Immediately, someone beside him said, but after Qigong leaves office, who will be able to take his place? The uncles present were all older. They would only step in when it came to major decision-making events in the Xinjiang region. But taking care of the entire region on weekdays was very tedious, and they no longer had enough time and energy to do so. Therefore, they had to look for a young man like Qin Qigong. Qin Qigong said, Ahem. Right now, I'm still the supreme commander of Xinjiang region, so can I recommend someone for my successor? The executives cast inquiring gazes. Qin Qigong said, I think that Meng Yuanjun can take my place. When they heard this name, a look of realization appeared in many people's eyes. Meng Yuanjun and Qin Qigong were contemporaries, and the two of them had once been rivals, but they had also worked together. And Meng Yuanjun's ability was really not bad. It was just that. Everyone looked at Qin Qigong, not quite understanding what he was doing. After all, according to the usual practice, no one would recommend a former rival to the top when he or she was stepping down. Qin Qigong just smiled faintly, his smile slightly bitter. Times have changed. If it was in a peaceful era, I certainly wouldn't have let him climb over my head. But now, the outside world has changed so drastically that Huashu Kingdom or us, we may face tough challenges at any time. That's why the position of Supreme Commander must find someone who possesses enough ability to control the big picture. What he needs to take into account is not just one Xinjiang region. Rather, it's the whole world. An old man nodded. You've made a good point, and it's rare for you to be able to have such an awareness. We'll consider Meng Yuanjuan's problem. 3 days later, news came from the Xinjiang region. Qin Shigong had officially stepped down from his position as the supreme commander of Xinjiang region as a price for his outburst against Jiangnan region's supreme battle force, Chaos. After receiving this news, Zhang Yi was relieved in his heart. Not directly causing a large-scale conflict was the best outcome. This news even made him a little surprised. This was because when he had asked for a sky-high price, he hadn't even thought that Qin Shigong would step down. All he wanted was to grab more benefits. This is very reasonable, brother. After all, you are a valuable strategic resource for the entire Huashu kingdom nowadays. Yang Xinxin smiled as she sat on Zhang Yi's lap, wiggling her 2 white tender calves wrapped in black stockings. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. I certainly understand the reasoning. It's just that I didn't expect that he would really be able to give up the power in his hands. Yang Xinxin said, the situation is caused by the time, half of it is not by people. Qin Shigong or Zhu Zheng is just a representative of a collective. When they offend the interests of the collective, they will naturally be affected accordingly. At this moment, Lian Yu, who was holding Dragon's Roar at the side, frowned as a flash of worry flashed across her eyes. Seeing this look on her face, Zhang Yi rested his cheeks on one hand and asked indifferently, Lian Yu, what's wrong? Why do you have a worried look? Lian Yu raised her head to look at Zhang Yi, then at Yang Xinxin and the others, and let out a long sigh. I can't figure out why a character like Qin Shigong would make such an outrageous decision. Zhang Yi knew that she was not talking about Qin Shigong stepping down from his post, but rather Qin Shigong allowing Hotu to take action against Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi smiled in disbelief as he heard this. This world is a giant straw man. Those characters that you think are high and mighty, without any flaws, do not exist at all. He reached out and pointed to Fatty Su, who was playing a game not far away. You see, even someone like Fatty Su is already a legend-level figure when looking at the Jiangnan region. Those who don't know him would privately think that he must be a valiant and fearless tough guy after following me through many battles, big and small. However, what in fact? Fatty Su raised his head with an innocent expression. First of all, I didn't offend anyone. Zhang Yi blankly glanced at him. Accompany your man-mother to play the game. All right, boss. Fatty Su ran off to the side with his ass. Zhang Yi said to Lian Yu, same thing. Qin Shigong's body has an aura that makes you think that he must be brilliant and every decision he makes is incredibly wise. However, the truth is that even the smartest of people will have times when they get confused. He laughed and spread his hands, not to mention a very important point. That is, he doesn't even understand my true strength. This explanation from Zhang Yi caused a look of enlightenment to appear on Liang Yu's face. In other words, there's no need to be misled by the aura that some people carry, is there? Everyone is nothing but ordinary people. Zhang Yi nodded, and then said to the person next to him who was waiting for Zhang Yi's reply, tell the Xinjiang side that I am very satisfied with their wise decision. This matter ends here, and I hope that we can still work together in the future. Work hard to make Huashu Kingdom a harmonious, prosperous, rich and strong nation. Chapter 1569, Tianhai Fortress Plan. That clerk sent by Xinjiang had a fawning smile on his face. He rubbed his hands together. Your Excellency Chaos, you see, since Xinjiang has given you a satisfactory answer in this matter. Then came those Yuan stone veins that you took earlier. No. Zhang Yi replied without hesitation. What a joke, where was the reason to spit out what had reached his mouth? The clerk's face instantly stiffened, then he fought for it again without dying, even if it's just half of it returned. After all, this is too much for you to take away at once, that's more than the sum of the past 3 years of mining in Xinjiang. Zhang Yi walked over and patted his shoulder. What's yours and mine, we are all subjects of Huashu Kingdom. All are working for the family and country. It's the same in my hands as it is in the Xinjiang region. This friend, you need to broaden your horizons. Zhang Yi then didn't care about the clerk's begging eyes and directly whisked him out. Xinjiang region's side all Qin Qigong had stepped down. Naturally, he wouldn't fall out with him again because of the Yuan stone vein issue. And this time, Zhang Yi can be said to have earned a pot full of money. He happily took everyone with him, and after saying goodbye to Zhu Zheng, he was ready to return to Tianhai City. However, he had no intention of returning the satellite control of Jiangnan region to Zhu Zheng. Zhang Yi walked out of the room and looked up at the bright sky amidst the haze. Snowflakes were still fluttering down, and the endless deep sky gave off a strong sense of unease, as if a huge reaper of love would fall from above at any moment. One must consider the implications of this. Zhang Yi said softly. Yang Xinxin said to Zhang Yi, "Brother, there is no need to worry about this issue. We can detect the movements of any launching well in the world today. There is enough time to react." Zhang Yi rubbed his brow. However, this is not enough. Even if we are able to anticipate all of this in advance, the possibility of our base in Tianhai City being attacked and destroyed by others still exists. Just thinking about this makes me uncomfortable inside my heart. He then looked to the side. His chief mechanic and only mechanical expert Liu Karen had short delicate hair and was standing behind him wearing a black down jacket with white fur trim. The palm-sized small face was white and tender, making it hard to imagine that she could move 30 kilograms of machinery with her bare hands. "Karen, is your research progressing now? The plan I proposed earlier to make Tianhai City a giant fortress. Is it feasible?" Liu Karen immediately had an excited expression on his face when he heard Zhang Yi mention his field of work. "Brother, it's already in the plans. Nowadays, the outer wall of our shelter has already had its 6th overall material replacement done by me. The basement now can hold back the impact of a small reaper of love. The most crucial is the addition of the barrier stone material. It makes it a good defense against all mutant attacks." The barrier stone was a material that Zhang Yi had found from the Nash Kingdom underneath the southwest region. Although the Nash Kingdom had been carrying on with the lifestyle of an ancient kingdom, they had gotten hold of a special material like the barrier stone, which could have a greater effect on mutants' abilities. Even Zhang Yi and the others had not suffered much because of it in the Nash Kingdom back then. Zhang Yi was particularly impressed by it, so he had specially brought quite a few of them back to Liu Karen for his research. Hearing that Liu Karen had already achieved good results, Zhang Yi nodded with satisfaction. "Very well, we must constantly update our fortifications." Zhang Yi took a deep breath. "I have this feeling. Sooner or later, we will face an even stronger enemy." His muscles contracted, subconsciously trying to hug his shoulders tightly. "Only an absolute defense that is unbreakable can give me enough security." He planned it out. Afterward, if there was another source of God or spirit of sacrifice or something like that, he would definitely leave it for Liu Karen to use. Not to figure out how strong her combat power was, he only hoped that she could create the world's strongest shelter for Zhang Yi. Xinjiang City. Wind and snow filled the sky. Under the hazy sky, Xinjiang City's military airport was heavily guarded at this time, and the air was filled with a flavor of depression and solemnity. On both sides of the road, the bodies of Dragon's Roar Guardians wearing combat uniforms and holding special weapons in their hands were as straight as a javelin. The door of the indoor airport was already open, and a huge F-37 was parked at the doors like a cigar, waiting to depart. In the midst of the wind and snow, an old man with white hair walked step by step wearing a gray-green military coat. This old man, who had been in power in the Xinjiang region for 3 years, although he had stepped down from his post today, instead of having any despondent look on his face, his demeanor was much more relaxed. He was escorted to the airport by his guards. After stepping down, he would leave Xinjiang and head to Ningxing, which was on the edge of the Xinjiang region, to preside over the work. The living conditions there were much worse than Xinjiang, and the population and resources were very sparse. Originally, Xinjiang's top management had prepared very good retirement conditions for him, hoping that he would retire to the second line. However, Qin Shi Gong just laughed. After the end of the world, the situation of the world has yet to settle down. My heart isn't willing to fall silent either. He said so and took the initiative to apply for a trip to Ningxing to build that bitterly cold place. Qin Shi Gong arrived at the airport, and the guards, carrying the suitcase, were planning to escort him onto the airplane. But just then, a person came from the other direction. A middle-aged man who was similar in age to Qin Shi Gong, but looked even younger in demeanor and tall and thin. This was none other than Meng Yuanjun, who had succeeded Qin Shi Gong as the second supreme commander of Xinjiang region for the special period. The two old friends and rivals met again, and they glanced at each other. A smile appeared on Qin Shi Gong's face, while Meng Yuanjun's expression was somewhat complicated. The guards beside him saw this and very sensibly stepped back a few steps. The two walked towards each other. Qin Shi Gong extended his right hand and said to Meng Yuanjun, "Congratulations, old Meng. From now on, you'll be the head of the Xinjiang region." The two large, pale and powerful hands clasped together. Meng Yuanjun said, "When I heard that you were the one who recommended me, I originally had some disbelief." A deep smile appeared on Qin Shi Gong's face. "You'll understand why I did it later." Meng Yuanjun raised an eyebrow. "There's no need for later. Don't think I don't know that this position isn't that good." Nowadays was not a time of peace. Huaxu Kingdom was facing all sorts of problems both internally and externally. As the Xinjiang region representing Huaxu Kingdom, its supreme commander didn't know how much to worry about. Qin Shi Gong laughed. "What? Are you afraid?" "Just kidding, what am I afraid of?" Meng Yuanjun laughed. "It's just that I really didn't expect that you would also have moments of confusion." He stared at Qin Shi Gong and said in a somewhat meaningful manner. Chapter 1570 Volt Shadow Troop. With these words, Meng Yuanjun was naturally referring to Qin Shi Gong's unauthorized use of the Ho Tu to strike against chaos. He spread his hands. "Epsilon, it's the highest level of a kingdom's battle force. Even sky-based weapons aren't as important as them. Yet you provoked a fight between them. This approach is, I must say, foolish." Qin Shi Gong sneered. "Meng Yuanjun, even though I flipped this time." "But remember," he raised his lofty head, his eyes filled with pride, "I didn't do anything wrong. It is in the hands of the people to plan, and in the hands of the heavens to accomplish. I have no problem with Epsilon's judgment. The country needs to be balanced, and can't let one person dominate. A chivalrous man uses martial arts to disrupt prohibitions, and the mutant likewise upholds great power and is prone to doing things out of the ordinary. This is something that you will realize more deeply when you take the throne." Meng Yuanjun was silent for a long while, then smiled and shook his head. "I'm not like you." Qin Shi Gong asked rhetorically, "And how are you different from me? Do you have any better means of restraining those disobedient mutants?" Meng Yuanjun laughed. "You, now or in the past. All have an old problem. No matter how big the matter is, you must personally ask about it yourself and don't trust the abilities of others. Maybe nowadays, we are all older. Always thinking about manipulating everything. Instead, it's easy to do nothing well." Qin Shi Gong looked Meng Yuanjun up and down deeply. "What do you mean by that? Are you saying that I don't trust them?" "You don't trust anyone." Meng Yuanjun said meaningfully, "None of us are sure what this world will become in the future. Can our antiquated experiences from the past really cope with today's world? You wish to set things right and bring everything back to the scene before the end of the world. But you've forgotten that everything can't go back long ago." Qin Shi Gong's heart jolted. As an old friend and rival, Meng Yuanjun had pierced his heart with a single sentence. He was afraid of young people like Zhang Yi. It was because young people did things with even more abandon and flair, making him feel like he couldn't control everything. This, perhaps, was the reason why he took action against Zhang Yi. Qin Shi Gong's eyes were somewhat confused. Could it be that he was really only acting for his own selfish interests and not for the greater good as he thought? Wait until you arrive in Ningxing, then take the time to think about this. Times are changing, and we should change as well. Don't be afraid of it all in order to better integrate with this world. Meng Yuanjun patted his shoulder, then turned to leave. It was only after he left that Qin Qigong's guards cautiously walked over and assisted the disoriented Qin Qigong. "Commander Qin, let's go." Qin Qigong didn't say anything, he just turned around dully and walked up the airplane's gangway with the guard's assistance. But his back, however, seemed to have aged a dozen years in an instant. The conflict between Zhangyi and Xinjiang region came to an end. However, everyone knew that once a rift was created, even if it was repaired, it would be difficult to completely cover up the wounds that were once there. This incident had given Zhangyi a warning. Only when one's strength was strong would one be able to face all dangers with ease. It was absolutely not possible to pin the hope of safety on others. I have to create a safe kingdom of my own. Right here in Tianhai City. Without relying on anyone, I can also face any outside crisis that may come my way. Zhang Yi firmly established this belief. Soon, he brought everyone with him to re-enter Tianhai City. On this return, he began to take the initiative to grab the construction of Tianhai City. Liu Karen was in charge of building a fortress with superb defense with the shelter as the center. And the scope wasn't just the shelter, but started spreading towards the surroundings, expanding the safe area. On top of that, the trip to Edo also served as a wake-up call for Zhang Yi. For a long time, he had too few people around him, and there were only a handful of Liangyu who could serve as assistants to aid in battle. And when facing a large army, it would be easy to lose out. Let's say, when fighting evil demon, that fellow's own power would not exceed 16,000 points at most. But with the help of the entire Edo castle's population of 500,000, it surprisingly allowed him to pose a certain threat to even Zhang Yi with his nomadic world. He began to put away his inner contempt for ordinary people and low-level mutants. Even in a war between high-level mutants, low-level mutants were not all useless. Special ability users would cause a surprise effect. And a large number of ordinary ability users, as long as they were in large enough numbers, would also affect the battlefield. This was Zhang Yi's perception today. Therefore, he decided that it was time to create his own mutant unit Volt Shadow. The Volt Shadow program, Yang Xinxin was responsible for building it. The training site was established 100 kilometers southeast of the shelter. They used a chemical factory as a base to create a mutant training school. The first batch of training had only 30 trainees, all of whom were selected from the entire Tianhai City with the best qualifications. Among these people were the former leader of the survival base, Xiao Honglian, as well as Xing Tian and Lu Dehai. After all, amongst the mutants in Tianhai City, they were considered to be the ones with more outstanding natural talent. If they were trained properly, they would have a good chance of becoming vice-captains or even captain-level mutants in the future. The instructors for the training were by Li Changqing, Wu Di, and the others who were called out by Zhang Yi. Yang Xinxin acted as the principal, responsible for the overall training, as well as the most crucial brainwashing. According to Zhang Yi, being strong was not the most important thing, the most important thing was loyalty. One must have the determination to absolutely obey Zhang Yi's orders, even at the risk of their lives. This kind of cultivator could be used. Otherwise, if they created some rebels who were very strong but did not obey Zhang Yi's orders, they would in turn cause trouble for Zhang Yi. In terms of training, Bai Li Changqing and Wu Di brought the most formal Yan Yunwei training methods. Physical fitness, weapons, close combat, and special skill training. They would be trained in basic abilities, as well as individual-specific ability enhancements. And to show Zhang Yi's support, Deng's technology, which Zhang Yi had spent a long time cultivating, also provided mature genetic drugs to help them rapidly improve their strength. Among the more outstanding mutants, they could also receive the Earth Centipede origin provided by the Earth Centipede Farm. It could be said that all the resources that the Volt Shadow Troop was able to obtain were at the very top of Huashu Kingdom. It even surpassed the level of the region's investigation team. Soon enough, the strength of the first batch of 30 people got a huge leap. The few mutants with the highest talent even soared all the way to the level of 7,000 points in their ability index. On top of that, cultural courses were naturally rare. Of course, these were not ordinary humanities and geography knowledge, but standard brainwashing courses. As for the teacher, it was the businessman that Zhang Yi had rescued from Rock Flow Island, Ma Wenjing.